Just days away from the end of the statewide mask mandate, Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall uses emergency powers to make sure the city stays masked up. Hear from essential workers on why it means so much to them.
The statewide mask mandate is ending this weekend, but what that means for cities and counties. We're looking into which businesses are still going to require one of these to get inside.
After a cold and windy start to the week, we had a really nice day today, but guess what? The wind is making a comeback tomorrow. Your forecast is coming up.
Weber County Commissioners vote to make it a sanctuary for the Second Amendment. I'm Haley Higgins in Ogden with what that means and why it was a resolution in the first place.
Absolutely, 100% takes a mental toll on you as well.
And new research has been published about brain health after having COVID-19. Hear from those still experiencing symptoms months after contracting the virus, plus what the study could mean for those people.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13's Live at 5 starts right now.
My job is to try to protect the people who live in this city, to try to protect the people who work in this city, and to protect the businesses that employ people here.
And Salt Lake City Mayor Erin Mendenhall says she is doing just that. Today, she announced the city will impose a mask mandate after the statewide mandate is lifted on Saturday. But another major announcement today is creating a big shift in pandemic policies in Salt Lake County. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Evans.
And I'm Lauren Steinbrecher. Salt Lake County will not move forward with a mask mandate past Saturday, while Salt Lake City has decided to keep one for the foreseeable future. As Fox 13's Spencer Joseph joins us from the city and county building, he's explaining why the city is making the move. Spencer.
Yeah, and really today was surrounding essential workers, a lot of them saying that by the city implementing this mask mandate, that's allowing them to continue enforcing it in their own stores and giving them the peace of mind for their essential workers.
I'm using the emergency powers given to the Office of Mayor to require that masks continue to be worn in all public settings in Salt Lake City.
60 hours away from the end of the state's mask mandate, Salt Lake City has made the announcement.
Nothing will change that day here in Salt Lake City.
Backed by the city council.
Masks and social distancing are key.
And the University of Utah.
Masks work. If anybody has any questions about the efficacy of masks in spreading disease, think about what's happened with influenza and RSV this year.
But essential workers took center stage.
It's a real honor for me to be here.
In the form of Matt Caputo from Caputo's Market.
It's a bit surprising. I mean, all these professionals, I slice salami for a living.
I'm really grateful. I got tears in my eyes as she was saying it.
Mayor, I didn't know what you were going to do today. Thank you so much.
For him, he says this will help enforce mask mandates in his stores.
It truly became one of the hardest parts of the pandemic to deal with.
And other businesses feel the same.
Some large retailers tell us that they will have to hire additional staff and security for mask enforcement.
As for how long this mandate will last, it isn't clear.
I can't wait until the day comes when the data allows me to write an order rescinding the life-saving mask requirement. But today is not that day, and April 10th is not that day.
Thank you.
But as the state and the county mandates come to an end, the message from essential workers in Salt Lake City is,
please be considerate to those that are experiencing the fear and don't have another choice, and wear a mask.
So I want to bring up that there are some questions being asked about the legality of this mask mandate, because it isn't specifically mentioned in the endgame bill that cities have the right to do this. Now, Mayor Mendenhall addressed that by specifically saying that that stems from her emergency powers, from an emergency declaration at the beginning of this pandemic that she declared last year. Live in downtown Salt Lake City, Spencer Joseph, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thanks, Spencer. Salt Lake County leaders are officially not moving forward with a mask mandate past Saturday, but that does not mean you can go mask-free everywhere in the county. The county health director, Dr. Gary Edwards, says with House Bill 294, Utah lawmakers promised the public it would eliminate the mask requirement based on a date rather than data approach. But Edwards says the data is currently supporting the April 10th lift date.
I am recommending that Salt Lake County not adopt a mask mandate at this time as we continue to see the numbers decline.
And we would just ask our residents that you please be respectful. When you go into a business that is asking you to wear a mask, please do so respectfully.
This mandate change does not apply to schools. Students, teachers, and staff are all still required to wear masks in schools and the classroom. The mandate also applies to county-owned buildings like health clubs, and it could change depending on how the county does in terms of case numbers. After Saturday, businesses around the state will have to decide whether masks will be required within their business.
Fox 13's Sydney Glenn spoke with two businesses, both of which will continue to require masks. She starts our journey at Hogle Zoo.
Even though the statewide mask mandate is being lifted this weekend, in many places like here at the Hogle Zoo, the only ones you're going to see not wearing a mask are the animals, like this pretty lady over here.
Masks, strollers, kids, animals, and more masks fill the Hogle Zoo on this sunny afternoon. And all of that is here to stay.
The mask debate at Hogle Zoo has been very fierce and very intense all year. We have seen very explosive attitudes from our guests. We've had some security guards that have been abused. We've had other, it's been a really tough year.
Salt Lake City will continue to require masks, so the zoo has the city mandate to back them up.
It's helpful for our frontline staff. Most of our ticket takers, some of them it's their very first time job, so to have them be the ones trying to enforce a mask mandate, it's a lot to ask and it's a very intimidating position.
A spokesperson says they aren't ready to drop COVID precautions. The zoo is currently running at about half capacity, even though by law they could reopen at full capacity.
We have these points where everybody kind of bottlenecks together. Everyone wants to see the polar bear in the water. Everyone wants to see the baby gorilla.
It's not just about the people's safety either.
There are zoo species that actually are susceptible to COVID-19.
Now let's head to Murray, where businesses like Painting with a Twist no longer have to require masks. But the owner says they still will.
We're going to move into it slowly.
The owner admits it's not always an easy rule to enforce.
The people who don't want to wear a mask, or don't believe that it's actually effective.
With each stroke of the paintbrush, people get to escape reality here, and they want that to continue.
With masks, I think it's easier to do that because they feel safer.
From the whimsical paintings to the elephant exhibits, it appears many business owners will still be asking you to put on your mask before you start the fun.
We're just really asking for some kindness and some patience.
Remember, no matter what the county, city, or state decides in terms of a mask mandate, individual businesses are always allowed to make their own rules, and you will have to respect those. At the Hogle Zoo, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Many counties will continue to require masks in government buildings. So far, only Grand County will require masks county-wide following the end of the state's mandate. After Saturday, the Utah Transit Authority will continue to require masks for riders and employees. UTA posted on social media today that, quote, "We still have a ways to go on the route to recovery, but together we can get there."
And if you have a flight to catch, you will have to wear your mask at the Salt Lake City International Airport. Airport officials say that only ticketed passengers, employees, and those doing business at the airport are allowed to go inside their buildings.
Here's a quick look at today's COVID-19 numbers. 612 new cases for a total of more than 388,000. 2 new deaths are being reported. More than 2,100 Utahns have lost their lives to COVID-19. More than 34,000 doses of vaccine have been administered in Utah since yesterday, for a total of more than 1.5 million doses. Almost 600,000 Utahns are now considered fully vaccinated.
Switching gears now to weather. A gorgeous day outside today. Here's some video captured by Fox 13 photojournalist Bryce Prince at Inlet Park, in Saratoga Springs. But this nice warm weather is about to change soon. Up and down and up and down. That's spring in Utah, right?
Yes, and fire concerns heading into the next couple of days, but it's definitely hiking season, camping season. And as we're transitioning into camping season, please make sure you're being really careful if you're going to be out this weekend, and especially if you're going to be heading out tomorrow with any campfires. Now, temperatures here in Salt Lake, it's in the 60s right now. As Lauren mentioned, we're warming up, we're cooling down, and we're kind of all over the place over the next couple of days, but nothing too too drastic. Here across the state right now, most of us are in the 60s. It's a perfect 77 right now in St. George, and it's quite a bit warmer than it was this time yesterday. Noticeably warmer, about 15 degrees warmer for the Wasatch Front and southwestern Utah, about 5 to 10 degrees warmer compared to this time 24 hours ago. But for the rest of your Wednesday night, those temperatures in the 60s through the 7 o'clock hour, and then we're in the 50s. But tomorrow morning, as you wake up, so after midnight tonight, those temperatures will be into the 40s, and our wind is really going to ramp up tomorrow. But right now, our wind is pretty light here across the state. It's noticeable for Cedar City and Bryce Canyon, about 15 to 20 miles per hour, but that is nothing compared to what we're going to be heading into tomorrow afternoon. So let's talk more about that and what you can expect. Plus, I'll have details on those fire warnings here across the state coming up in the full forecast.
Thanks, Allison. Still ahead, we're learning more about the crash that badly hurt legendary golfer Tiger Woods, what investigators are revealing about the moments before the wreck.
And Weber County is doubling down on a commitment to gun rights. We'll take an in-depth look at what the county is doing and why some say it goes too far.
Prosecutors called witnesses for an 8th day in former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin's murder trial.
A use of force expert took the stand again today. Court TV legal correspondent Shanley Painter has the latest from Minneapolis.
The state has called the senior special agent of the newly formed Use of Force Investigation Unit of the Bureau of Criminal Apprehension here in Minnesota to the stand this afternoon. Now, James Ryerson is the lead investigator for the case against Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd.
So my supervisor called me at approximately 9:45, Agent Phil, and informed me there had been an incident that occurred in the confines of Minneapolis involving Minneapolis Police Department. It was determined that myself, Agent Phil, and Agent Scott Mueller would all report to City Hall.
And so did you understand essentially why you, as BC agents, were being called to this incident?
We knew that some form of critical incident had occurred, but at that point we didn't have a huge amount of information.
And when you use the term critical incident in this context, what did it mean to you at that time?
An incident involving a police officer and potentially a civilian that could have caused harm.
During Ryerson's testimony, prosecutors showed a series of video clips from bystander video, body camera video, and surveillance video. And earlier today, an expert, Sergeant Jody Steiger, offered his opinion on the level of force Derek Chauvin was using on George Floyd May 25th, 2020. That's the latest from here in Minneapolis. I'm Shanley Painter with Court TV.
New details now on the crash that badly injured golfing legend Tiger Woods back in February. Authorities say excessive speed is the official cause of the crash. Woods was driving as fast as 87 miles per hour, they say, before he hit a tree at 75 miles an hour. He was driving in a 45 mile per hour zone. Investigators say there was no evidence of impairment from drugs or alcohol or distraction from something like a cell phone. Woods told officials he could not remember the moments leading up to the crash.
Still ahead, the pandemic has shown how fragile the food supply chain can be, even for big grocery stores. How this is leading to a boom in small farms in unlikely places.
And President Biden's Secretary of the Interior is set to come to Utah tomorrow. Hear Governor Spencer Cox and what he has to say about the visit. Thanks for joining us at Fox 13 News Live at 5. Allison Krogan's going to have your first alert forecast in just a few minutes.
The pandemic has taught us a lot about our health, our relationships, and even about where our food comes from.
In the early days, we all remember this: empty shelves in supermarkets were a common sight in many places. As Maya Rodriguez found out, there's a growing movement to fill in that gap with small farms springing up in unlikely places.
Every morning,
we do collards, kale, arugula, cabbage.
Rain or shine.
We got sage and rosemary over there.
Tavares Robinson tends to the myriad of crops on his farm.
I'm doing broccoli this year, tomatoes, carrots, cucumbers, squash, onions, garlic.
But he isn't any ordinary farmer.
I'm actually a carpenter and a cook. I was not a farmer. Let's get that clear. I had no clue I'd be farming.
And this isn't any ordinary farm. Its odd 1-acre shape carved out of small growing patches in the middle of America's capital city.
The food goes back to the community.
The farm is part of the nonprofit DMV Urban Greens, located in the southeast section of Washington, D.C. It's a place known as a food desert, where residents struggle to access fresh produce, even more so during a pandemic.
One Safeway in like a 5-mile radius, serving over 100 and something thousand people.
This farm seeks to help with that need. In the last year, it gave away 20,000 pounds of fresh produce.
In the past 30 years, the number of urban farms in the U.S. has grown by more than 30%. And because the pandemic showed just how fragile the food distribution system can be, even for some big supermarkets, urban farming has become a fresh food lifeline in some places.
It's a growth that adds up to thousands of small urban farms around the country, in cities from Detroit to Phoenix to Tampa, now home to dozens of them. They range from small plots, known as microgardens, to several acres in size. Robinson felt the impact of that urban farming trend when he recently tried buying crop seeds.
Now everything is sold out. Like, everybody's farming now.
To help keep things going.
But in here, last week we planted some lettuce.
Volunteers like Gloria Anthony step in.
I just love to see the hard work go in, then to see the harvest and know that the vegetables are going to people that really need. And so that's very rewarding.
But like all farms everywhere, it has its challenges.
We got animals around here, a groundhog that just keep eating me down. I mean, he eat me down good. I mean, dude is off the chain. He out here now somewhere waiting for me to plant something.
But so are the people.
And it just makes the whole place smell so good.
Now counting on this growing bounty. In Washington, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Every year, I am so hopeful for our big apricot tree.
Oh, man, I got to hear about this again, Bob.
Well, it's your fault, for Pete's sake.
I don't have any plants to report on over here. I've been holding off on any spring planting.
Yeah,
all of the blossoms,
for good reason.
All of the blossoms that may have survived yesterday's snow.
I know. Bob, is it not just you that's worried about the apricot trees? I've heard this
Oh,
from
yes, it is.
No, it's
I'm
actually
the only one.
A lot of people. And you know what? We are heading into this season where we're going to have some cool temperatures, especially tomorrow night into Friday morning. So if you do have a plant that you could bring inside as we cool down tomorrow, that's going to be a really good idea. But for big trees, Bob, I know it's really tough, and especially once we start getting into May and people are doing more planting. We'll get into that in a little bit. But right now here in Salt Lake City at 64 degrees, your wind is out of the northwest, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Here's what it looks like on our Olds Mill camera. So some people out golfing, you can see walking around there. Beautiful afternoon for that. Now tomorrow the wind picks up. Friday will actually be better for golfing, but it's going to be a little bit on the cooler side. Saturday morning, that's going to be your time to make that tee time. During the day on Saturday, it'll be really nice out. Tomorrow, areas of blowing dust with breezy conditions and fire warnings for central and eastern Utah. So areas of hot pink, this is where we have the red flag warnings. This will be in place until tomorrow night at 9 p.m. And our temperatures here across the state, Deer Valley, Bald Mountain, beautiful. Keep in mind, closing day for many of the resorts this upcoming weekend on Sunday. No big storms before then. So what we have right now, we had actually impressive totals with the snow yesterday, so the sooner you can get out, the better, but tomorrow will be a bit breezy. Cherry Peak cash cam looking so nice. The reason I haven't shown you satellite and radar is because radar is still down. We'll be down until tomorrow. But we are seeing increasing clouds on our Zion National Park camera ahead of our next disturbance. Salt Lake will have areas of blowing dust tomorrow. We're in the 60s for just a little bit longer, 50s starting at 8 o'clock tonight, 40s after midnight tonight, and dry roads for tonight and tomorrow morning. So at least we have that going for us. We do need storms, though. We still don't have great news for our drought situation here across Utah, but none of the storms, none of the fronts in the next few days are really going to produce much as far as precipitation goes. Temperatures here across Utah right now, most of us are in the 60s, and it's quite a bit warmer than it was yesterday. I know it's a bit deceiving, especially for people who want to get out and do the planting. I know, Bob, I was just joking around with you a second ago, but really that is a thing that many people are keeping their eye on because we're going to cool down again. So we're kind of going to be in this wave of warming up and cooling down. And so we're not out in the clear quite yet as far as storms go. Our average last date of snowfall here in Salt Lake City, middle of April, but we've had it as late as early June. Now Futurecast heading into the next couple of days, tomorrow, our wind picks up, especially second half of the day. But notice most of the precipitation off to our north and off to our east. Then we warm up come Saturday, and it's going to be very pleasant outside. Overnight temperatures, though, tomorrow morning, plants should be fine. It'll be about 40 degrees for the Wasatch Front, but then we're going to cool again. Friday morning will be a little bit cooler because tomorrow afternoon that front is going to work its way through into Thursday night. So highs tomorrow will again be in the 60s. St. George, you're windy tomorrow, 83 degrees for high come Friday. Not much of a cool down for you. You're fine for planting. We have temperatures in the upper 40s for St. George for lows, and then highs will be around 80 to 85. For the Wasatch Front, it's going to be cold Thursday night into Friday morning. A bit of a concern there. Come Friday, sunny and in the 50s. Then Saturday, this is what I've been bragging about. It's going to be close to 70 degrees on a Saturday here in Salt Lake City. A little cooler come Sunday, but Saturday will be the day to get outside, get that patio furniture ready, do that power washing, all that fun stuff, and then close to 60 Monday through Wednesday of next week.
The right to keep and bear arms, the center of a resolution that makes Weber County a Second Amendment sanctuary. What that means next.
The trial for Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow, the mother of 2 Idaho children found dead last summer, has been postponed. We'll explain why.
And could the hotel of the future be upon us? We'll show you what Marriott is testing right now. In today's Money Watch, Target is committing to spend $2 billion with Black-owned businesses by the year 2025.
It will add products from more than 500 companies across a variety of categories. Target says it's been expanding its roster of suppliers for decades. It will also increase spending with Black-owned marketing companies, construction companies, and will provide new resources to help Black-owned businesses expand to work with large retailers. Target also has plans to increase the number of Black workers across its company by 20% over 3 years.
Hotel desk clerks may be a thing of the past. Marriott is testing automated check-in kiosks at several locations, including in New York City. They'll check in guests and spit out room keys, but they can also serve as giant vending machines that will even dispense cereal and coffee. Marriott says the goal is to ease customer fears of interacting with staff due to the coronavirus.
And how about this for an incentive to get your COVID shot? The company behind the Samuel Adams Beers wants to offer you a beer after you get vaccinated. This promotion starts Monday. If you post evidence of your vaccination on social media using the hashtag #ShotForSam, you can get $7 sent to you to buy a beer. The evidence doesn't have to be a vaccine card. It can be a sticker or a picture with the Band-Aid. But you should do it soon. The offer is for the first 10,000 people who take part.
U.S. stocks wobbled today after notes from the Federal Reserve's last policy meeting showed that central bank officials reaffirmed their commitment to supporting the markets and the economy. The Dow ended with 16 more points, closing at 33,446. The Nasdaq lost 10 and the S&P gained 6.
Coming up in our next half hour, how far is too far when it comes to protecting gun rights? We'll take an in-depth look at the conversation happening now in Weber County.
And we'll tell you about a new study taking a deep dive on the impact of the pandemic on your mental health, what researchers have learned, and how people suffering with symptoms of the virus are reacting to the findings.
President Joe Biden is looking at gun control measures that do not need congressional approval. CNN is reporting the president will announce new executive actions on guns tomorrow. This comes after 2 deadly mass shootings last month in Georgia and Colorado.
Another Utah county is broadcasting a commitment to protect gun rights by becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary.
Weber County is the 4th in the state to do so. Fox 13's Haley Higgins takes an in-depth look at what this means.
Well, this resolution is essentially symbolic. It doesn't make or change any laws, but the county commission says it was important to show their support for the Second Amendment.
The resolution declaring Weber County a Second Amendment sanctuary.
Citing the U.S. Constitution, Weber County commissioners vow never to use taxpayer money to unlawfully restrict someone's rights to own firearms.
Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chair Harvey?
Aye. Resolution 15 unanimously is passed.
The resolution prompted after concerns of possible gun reform laws enacted by either Congress or the state legislature.
We got a lot of individuals who had reached out to us and said this is really important.
Drafted over the last year, the resolution comes on the heels of similar actions in Uinta, Utah, and Wayne counties. Commissioners in Weber County hope it sends a message of protecting gun rights as outlined in the Constitution's Second Amendment. Yet anti-gun violence activists argue the county set a dangerous precedent.
They're saying that if the law changes, they will choose not to follow the law. That sounds like breaking the law to me.
Activists say it's up to the courts to decide what's constitutional, not politicians, and this could set the county up for possible lawsuits. They also raise concerns for domestic violence victims. However, commissioners insist the resolution is right.
It's been overwhelming, the amount of positive response that's come because of this.
Well, the commissioners say the resolution was drafted by the county attorney and has full support from the sheriff. Reporting in Ogden, Haley Higgins, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A St. George man is the third Utahn to face charges for involvement in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol. During a virtual federal court hearing today, a judge ordered Brady Knowlton not visit Washington, D.C. unless it's for business. These photos from the Department of Justice show Knowlton inside the Senate chamber gallery.
The Chokecherry fire near the Utah-Nevada border in Iron County is now 25% contained. Investigators determined the fire was caused by a legally permitted burn that was not properly extinguished. Investigators also say wind reignited the fire, which quickly spread to the drought-stressed vegetation nearby. Yeah, drought-stressed is
Really?
the operative right there.
Yes,
Yeah, real
absolutely.
testament to the conditions.
And even worse tomorrow, as our wind is really going to pick up, especially across eastern Utah. That's where we have red flag warnings. This will be until tomorrow at 9 p.m. from Vernal all the way down towards Lake Powell, towards Hall's Crossing. Now, temperatures here across the state will be a little bit cooler on Friday and then warming up again on Saturday. But right now, our wind is mostly calm, about 5 to 10 miles per hour. It's a little bit breezy Cedar City over towards Bryce, about 15 to 20 miles per hour. But looking at these temperatures, nice spring skiing in Park City today, 52 degrees, enjoying that fresh snow that we got yesterday. 61 currently in Tooele, 57 for Eden. Temperatures down into Provo and Lehigh, 64 degrees, close to 60 in Heber right now. Now down into Moab, 66, St. George close to 80 degrees. Now Salt Lake tonight at 10 o'clock, 50 degrees. As you wake up tomorrow morning, temperatures in the 40s. And then by noon tomorrow, we're back close to 60 degrees. And it looks pretty picture perfect, at least on paper, but know that wind will pick up tomorrow, so it won't be as comfortable as it was today. And then we'll cool down a little bit for Friday. Let's talk more about what you can expect over the next couple of days coming up in my next full forecast.
Interior Secretary Deb Haaland will be in Utah tomorrow to tour Bears Ears National Monument.
She's visiting ahead of President Biden's decision on whether to return the monument to its original size. Fox 13's Ben Winslow is in San Juan County with more.
This is the Interior Secretary's first trip to Utah since she was confirmed. She'll be meeting with tribal representatives, Utah's political leaders, and others as she visits Bears Ears National Monument. Now, you'll remember Bears Ears was created by President Obama. Then its boundaries were shrunk by President Trump alongside the Grand Staircase Escalante National Monuments. Now, President Joe Biden is considering whether to undo what President Trump did. Supporters of the original monument want it returned, while a lot of Utah's congressional delegation opposes that. The governor will be down here with her. In an interview with Fox 13, Governor Spencer Cox expressed a desire to stop the ping-ponging of national monument designations in Utah.
There is a road
to consensus. Whether or not the parties are willing to go all the way down that road remains to be seen, but this is a good first step.
But do you fully expect Bears will return to its original size?
I don't know. I really don't. I suspect that it will be increased for sure. Whether it's increased to its original size or not will depend on what happens in these discussions.
Now, at the very least, Governor Cox says he'd like to see more federal resources put down here to managing the monument. The Interior Secretary has a big day. We'll be covering it and bring you the latest on Fox 13 News. In San Juan County, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A windy San Juan County. A new effort is being made to keep Asian communities in Salt Lake City safe from hate crimes. The Asian Link Project is offering chaperones to people of Asian descent as a way to deter crime and protect them. This comes as a response to the recent uptick in these kinds of crimes across the United States.
We're following the news and we're watching these, Asian hate crimes happening all over the nation. Their parents, who are involved and support different parts of the Asian community in Utah, they were checking in with other Asian friends, and we're worried about their elderly parents and elders in their community in general.
If you'd like to learn more about the project, go to fox13now.com.
Utah's U.S. representatives are joining the conversation around Georgia's new voting laws. Congressman Chris Stewart and Blake Moore made a joint statement on recent responses from national organizations. It says in part that they are, quote, disappointed in the large corporations that have bent to misinformed political pressure over Georgia's recent voting law. Representative Stewart also says in a tweet that companies should hold themselves to a higher message. And Representative Burgess Owens tweeted about the Major League Baseball's decision to move the All-Star game out of Georgia in response to the new voting laws. The new game will be in Colorado. Burgess says in a tweet, quote, so the MLB chose a state with stricter voting laws. Can they just admit it was all about partisan politics all along?
The Biden administration is receiving criticism for its immigration policy from county sheriffs across the nation, including one here in Utah. Nearly 275 sheriffs from 39 states have signed a letter saying the president is allowing too many illegal immigrants into the country. Iron County Sheriff Ken Carpenter says he signed the letter because he believes stricter border control will help to stop crime and terrorist threats.
Is that there's a lot of problems that come into our nation that aren't necessarily the immigrants themselves, but do have to do with organized crime and people that do want to do our country harm.
The letter was also signed by Sheriff Ater Narvazia of Elko County, Nevada.
The trial date for Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow Daybell is being postponed. The two are accused of concealing evidence, including the remains of Vallow Daybell's two children, JJ Vallow and Tylee Ryan. So far, murder charges have not been filed. Attorneys for Chad and Lori would like for the trial to be held as far away as possible from Rexburg, they say, to avoid a biased jury. A change of venue hearing is scheduled for early June. A new trial date has not been set, but defense attorneys recommended October or November.
I just want to say to the survivors out there, we believe you and we hear you.
They're working to shine a light on a dark issue. We'll show you what lawmakers are doing to raise awareness of sexual assault. Local advocates gathered at the state capitol today to recognize Sexual Assault Awareness Month. The first Wednesday in April is recognized as Start by Believing Day. It's a day that provides an opportunity for communities across the country to unify with a single voice for those who have been victims of sexual violence and change the way we respond to sexual assault. Statistics say in Utah, 1 in 6 women and 1 in 25 men will experience rape or attempted rape at some point in their lifetime.
We need to have more honest conversations about consent and what consent is. And until we have those honest conversations, until we as a society all take ownership, we'll still see sexual assault and intimate partner violence occur in our state.
The advocates who spoke today are encouraging all Utahns to take the Start by Believing pledge. You can find that and other resources at fox13now.com.
Salt Lake City is considering ranked choice voting for this year's city elections. The Salt Lake City Council is waiting until April 20th to figure out whether it will use ranked choice voting. In a traditional election, voters choose one candidate, but under ranked choice voting, you list them in order of preference from first to least desirable. The City Council talked about costs, how the process works, and public education efforts related to the alternative.
Is there enough time to raise awareness and educate the public about changing the election method to ranked choice voting? And note that the time to educate voters significantly changes whether there is or is not a primary.
There will be some bills, or there were some bills related to ranked choice voting in the legislature's 2021 general session. Several cities are testing it out. In the past, former Governor Gary Herbert has endorsed the idea.
How does COVID-19 impact your brain health? I'm Erin Cox, and coming up next, I'm going to show you a new research study that was published and what COVID-19 long haulers are experiencing.
Coming up in sports, Donovan Mitchell will tell us what's made the Suns so good this season, leading up to tonight's big matchup in Phoenix. And we'll introduce you to the Utah State men's basketball coach, Ryan Odom, as he starts his run with the Aggies.
One of the first studies providing data on how brain health is impacted by COVID-19 was published yesterday.
Fox 13's Aaron Cox spoke with those researchers at Oxford University and COVID-19 patients here in Utah who say they're experiencing exactly what this study is talking about.
Researchers looked into health records for those 10 years and older. They also looked at anyone who had a respiratory infection or was officially diagnosed with COVID-19. Research from records, some say, show their everyday reality. Jess Monson says she's never dealt with depression before.
I feel like I cannot do the things that I've done with them.
But after having COVID-19, she's been on 10 different medications and is seeing therapy because her physical symptoms are impacting her mental health.
The days decide for me, like how it's going to go sometimes.
Something others say they're experiencing.
The mental health part of it sometimes ends up being the worst.
The good news is they're not alone. Professor Paul Harrison and his colleagues at Oxford University looked into the brain health of those who had COVID-19.
How did you guys differentiate between, okay, this is circumstantial depression due to COVID-19 or it's neurological?
The honest answer is you can't really distinguish those clearly. So first of all, I say because we compared the rates of depression after COVID with rates of depression after other health events occurring at the same time.
Harrison says 20 to 50% of the more than 200,000 COVID-19 patient records showed they had depression or anxiety. That's 1/3 of the population group they studied. The majority of that 30%, Harrison says, were between the ages of 40 and 45.
After COVID, you're at risk of both what you might call physical health problems and mental health care problems. So I'm hoping that again in the US and in Utah, you're again getting those messages across as well.
A research study that hopefully can help those still recovering months later after getting the virus.
Kind of have to be the pioneers in this whole thing.
Professor Harrison believes that having anxiety or any mental health disorder after COVID-19 does not make it any less treatable. He says to talk to your psychiatrist like you would your healthcare provider. In Salt Lake City, Aaron Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
If you or a loved one are in need of a mental health checkup, we have resources on our website, fox13now.com.
Okay, so I am wondering about this apricot tree that Bob has.
It was because it snowed on it and it had already started to bloom.
Wait,
right?
I don't think we talked about it yet, though.
Well, no, we talked about it on Monday when Amy was here because the popcorn was popping on the apricot tree.
But then it snowed on it.
Then it snowed on it. and I have yet to examine how many of those blossoms actually survive.
Well, you know what?
Well, I want a day-by-day update.
Actually, can become a really big problem in spring. If we get a late snow and the trees have started blooming and the leaves are out, that's when those trees start to sag down. They can get on the power lines, and oftentimes we see a lot of damage when we have some late spring snowstorms. But what we had the other day, we'll have some more cold temperatures, so if you can, I know trees are really difficult once you have that freeze or that snow after they've started blooming, but if you have any indoor plants that you can bring indoors, tomorrow night would be the time to do that. So keep that in mind. Now today, our pollen is low for molds, cottonwoods, oak, elm, all of the trees at a low level today, but our wind is going to pick up tomorrow. We'll see areas of blowing dust. So if you would like, you can go ahead and grab the allergy medicine first thing tomorrow morning as you're heading out the door. Now we're going to move forward with our red flag warning here across the state, and from Vernal down through Moab all the way down towards Halls Crossing, that's where we're going to have red flag warnings tomorrow. I don't know why the things were just skipping around a second ago. That was weird. But Alta Albion Basin, we have more clouds moving in. This is all ahead of our next front that's going to arrive tomorrow. Our wind gusts here across the state, mostly about 20 to 25 miles per hour for Bryce up into Elko. It's also been pretty breezy up into Evanston, but we're going to have much gustier conditions heading into tomorrow. So that wind will end up picking up tomorrow. But right now here across the state, most of our wind is around 60 to 65 degrees, our temperatures, excuse me. And that wind tomorrow is really going to strengthen, especially second half of the day, which I'll show you in just a moment. But the rest of the night here in Salt Lake City, we'll have mostly cloudy sky, temperatures back into the 50s at 8 o'clock tonight. Tomorrow morning as you wake up, we'll have those temperatures about 40 degrees, 40 to 45 here along the Wasatch Front for our overnight temperatures. And then that wind tomorrow will start picking up. Early lunchtime, 11:30. That wind will start about 25 to 35 miles per hour, mostly for the Wasatch back. It will become stronger, more widespread throughout the state tomorrow afternoon. Then tomorrow by 9 p.m., really strong up into Wyoming, and then for pockets along the Wasatch Front, and then into Washington County come early Friday morning. Now, Futurecast is what we can expect tonight. We'll have a few clouds at times, but then we'll have also a few areas of light drizzle possible, Ely into central Utah. Not really expecting a whole lot with that, but the wind will become the bigger concern, and then we'll have some cooler air spilling in behind this. It's a grazing cold front, and we'll have cooler temperatures for Friday for you. And then early to middle part of next week, we'll have a few more chances for some rain and snow to show up. But overnight temperatures here across Utah tomorrow morning as you wake up, about 40 to 45 for the Wasatch Front. Park City around freezing, St. George close to 50 degrees. And then by tomorrow afternoon, our highs will be around 60 to 65 by 5 o'clock. St. George in the 80s tomorrow. And then St. George, your temperatures will be around 80 to 85 throughout your entire 7-day forecast. Overnight temperatures about 50 degrees. So the issue with anybody who's doing any planting here, we still have cold temperatures, especially for overnight temperatures possible. So Thursday night and Friday morning, that'll be one of our coldest days in the 7-day forecast. But you'll notice all of our overnight temperatures are in the 30s here in Salt Lake City. Saturday, that's going to be the best day this weekend. It's going to be sunny and close to 70 degrees, and then cooling for Sunday with mid-50s.
Well, the top two teams in the NBA play tonight with the Jazz at the Phoenix Suns. Jazz have the best record in the league at 38-12. The Suns, though, just 2.5 games back after winning 6 straight games. Donovan Mitchell says the combination of Devin Booker and now Chris Paul make the Suns a good team.
This is a big one, 1 seed versus 2 seed. It's hard not to, you try not to look at those things, but it's hard not to. You understand the magnitude of the game that's coming up. You know, you had the minus CP with the skill of Book. You know, that's definitely, you see why they're in second place. That's really, you know, an underrated thing with Chris Paul and just his knowledge of the game and putting guys in situations. And they've done things that they've been doing, but just at a higher level, I think, this year. And I think that's what makes them a unique team, and it's going to be fun.
Utah State didn't take long to find their new head basketball coach, a coach that made a name for himself on a very big stage. Fox 13's Morgan Vance has more.
Yeah, Craig Smith certainly left huge sneakers to fill here in Logan. Then again, Ryan Odom believes he can keep that trend, putting the Aggies in position to continue winning Mountain West Conference championship.
Look at this.
remember this?
And the greatest upset in the history of this tournament is going to happen.
It's not about getting to the NCAA tournament. It's to winning games in the NCAA tournament.
Shock and awe!
A little over 3 years ago, little old Maryland, Baltimore County destroying mighty Virginia as a 16 seed. Well, Odom orchestrated that miracle.
They had lost 20 games each year the last 7 years. So there it was about flipping a culture. Here, he's going to further elevate this culture.
Athletic Director John Hartwell selling Aggie Nation on his new hire Wednesday.
Right here in the Estes Center, you see it. It's right there on full display. Walking in the Spectrum Center, walking down that tunnel, all right, and experience it and imagining in my head the herd and the crowd and just the home court advantage that we have here. It's not like that everywhere.
Odom said he's had other opportunities offered his way, but was waiting for the right one.
And I really believe that the foundation, there's a winning culture in place here. And as I looked around the country at places that I thought I could add to, this is one, that stood out to me.
A glorious day for Odom indeed. Then again, it didn't all go as planned.
And I think we'll talk more about, we shot the lights out. Here we go. We'll keep rolling here with it.
With Utah State hoops, Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
And congratulations to Danny Drews, the first Utah women's volleyball player to ever be named the Pac-12 Player of the Year. We'll be right back.
We're taking a live look outside from our Tribune camera. You can see all that construction that has been going on downtown lately. It is crazy the way it is exploding. Yeah.
Isn't that something?
So even more than the weather right now. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching Fox 13 News live at 5. If you've missed any of this, you can catch it on Roku.
We'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.